Construction and Nomenclature of Entrances. Welcome to Building Knowledge 101. In this video, we'll look at the construction and specific naming practices of commercial entrances. Let's look at nomenclature, talk about the different parts of a door and a frame. The first part here is at the bottom is the threshold. The purpose of the threshold is to prevent air-pushed water or air-driven water to come underneath the door. So that threshold creates a little bit of a hump into the door so that wind-forcing water can't blow it up under the door. We're looking at the door frame itself. On the hinge side, this is a hinge jamb. That's the section of the jamb that holds the hinging or hangs the door. The opposite side is going to be the lock jamb. So that's the side of the jamb that has the locking mechanism. At the top is a header. And then if we have a transom light, that becomes a transom bar. And then notice on the transom bar, when we have glass there, a transom light, we're going to use applied stops. Now, this has been a question quite often. Architects asking, was there any way to have a glass pocket set in the header so we don't have the added sight line of the applied stops? But in most cases, you're going to have a concealed overhead closer within the header right in this area. So this has to be kept open. So to put glass on it, we have to do applied stops here on the top. Now, at the top of that, we have a transom head that can be either thermal or non-thermal, depending on what your code requirements are. With a pair of doors like this, you can see the door on the right is considered the active leaf. The active leaf is active because it has a locking mechanism in it. The inactive leaf on the left has throw bolts, the top and the bottom. So that's considered the inactive door. Now, on doors, anything running horizontal is a rail. So this is the top rail and this is the bottom rail. So anything on a door horizontally is a rail. You have center rails or mid rails also. Anything running vertically is a stile. So here where the hinge is, adjacent to the hinge jamb is the hinge stile. On the opposite side of that, where the lock mechanism is the lock stile. And then on the pair of doors where those meet together, this is the meeting stile. So those are the main components of a door. Then all doors have push-pull hardware. So let me kind of summarize that here with this animation, show you those parts now. Again, the threshold underneath it, the header or transom above it, the head of the transom area. Then you have door hinge jamb, top rail, bottom rail of the door. And then our verticals are stiles. This is the hinge stile. We have the locking stile. And then you have finally the meeting stile. So those are the components of a door ending up with the push-pull hardware. So here you can see a double acting door section cut. Now I mentioned earlier, and this kind of emphasizes the double acting door is centered in the frame. And then here's a single acting door offset to the front. Now with the single acting door, you also have the door stop that I mentioned earlier. So you can see that here at this location, that's the door stop. Now what I want to point out here is the bottom rail sweeps that you can see on both these doors. They're set to the interior. Now this has been a question in the past. Most people have thought, well, shouldn't it be on the outside? Because that's going to stop water and wind from coming under the door if you put it on the outside. The sweep is always located to the interior so that when the door opens up, the sweep pushes any water on the threshold to the exterior. The other reason you want to have the sweep on the inside is, again, notice your glass stops wrapping around the door. With the sweep on the bottom on the interior, it completes that wrap all the way around the door to improve the air performance on the door. So now you have a continuous closure around the door to the interior. Here are some examples of standard commercial entrances. Now, all manufacturers that you work with are going to have these doors. These are the industry standards. The top one is a narrow style door, it's 2 1/8 inch sight line. And again, we're talking about the width of the sight line of the vertical stiles. Then the middle one is a medium style door, 3 1/2 inches, and the bottom is a wide style door, 500. Those are 5 inches. Those are all industry standard doors that pretty much every manufacturer is going to offer you. Now, as far as standard sizes, standard size door in a commercial application is what we call 3070. So we're referring to 3 foot 0 inches wide by 7 foot 0 inches tall. So a single door 3070, when you look at a pair, that's going to be 6070. Commercial doors are made per job for order. So you can, as an architect, you can get any size door you're looking for. These are what we consider the standard doors, but again, it does not limit you to that. If you want a 7'4" or 7'8" door or an 8'3", you can certainly get that because they're made for your order. And then a rule of thumb as far as maximum width, roughly about 4 foot wide, 8 foot tall is going to be about the maximum width on a standard commercial entrance, as it's kind of a trade-off as far as height and width. But maximum width is about 4 foot wide. So again, with a pair of doors, you're going to be looking at 8080. Then as far as maximum height, most manufacturers can offer you a door up to 10 foot tall, but they're going to limit the width to 3 feet. They're also going to require intermediate hinges because what we're trying to do is transfer the weight from the door to the frame. So instead of just having a pair of butt hinges, you're going to wind up with a pair and a half, maybe 2 pair of butt hinges. Intermediate pivots, continuous hinges is great. We're trying to get the weight, again, transferred quickly to the jamb. Well, the other things you're going to want, most manufacturers are going to want, is some type of a cross rail or a panic bar. And again, this is to help support the cantilevered weight of the door from the locking style. So your mid-rail will help carry that. Also, we need to keep the weight under 5 pounds a square foot. So most typical 1-inch insulated glass units contain quarter glass, but to get the weight down under 5 pounds, that's going to be 3/16 and 3/16 as opposed to quarter. Again, that's to make sure the hardware can carry the weight. Most commercial doors, you have a range of infill from 1/4-inch glazing up to 1 inch, and that can be accommodated very easily by changing the stop. You can see the stops on these doors push into a raceway and snap in place. So to change the infill, we're basically just going to vary the stops being used. That is all we have time for in this video. If you'd like to watch more of our 101 video series, subscribe to our YouTube channel, Kawneer Company, Inc.